Oven roasted potatoes. So easy and absolutely delicious. They're so good. They're so easy, which just makes it a perfect side. It is so easy. You just have to prep these and pop them in the oven and then just flip them and your side is done. And they are absolutely delicious. They taste like kind of like KFC's wedges a little bit. They taste kind of like fries and they are delicious. And it's super simple. Again, just a few ingredients and one of them is potatoes. Obviously, these are roast potatoes. Now, the first thing with roasting potatoes is you want to get the smallest potatoes you possibly can. Now, I did buy a bag of organic gold potatoes and I got some that was about this size, which will work perfectly for this. If you have bigger potatoes, you're just going to have to cut them up in smaller pieces, but you might not be able to get skin on all sides, but that's fine because you're still going to get roasted and the whole potato is going to get roasted regardless if there's skin on it or not. But ultimately, smaller potatoes the better, but of course if you have big potatoes, just go ahead and use what you have. But for best results, again, small potatoes. So I do have some baby potatoes in here and I also have some just gold potatoes that was really small in the bag. I'm going to go ahead and wash these up now, and I'm going to take my little scrubber and just quickly scrub each one of these really well, just to make sure all the dirt and all the grime and whatever is going to be in there comes off of my potato. I'm going to rinse this really quickly. Alright, so I could do this over my sink, but just because I don't want to move tripod, and I also have dishes in my sink, I'm going to show you right here. This is what I do. I will fill a bowl up with some water, and I will just scrub my potatoes. And just use the same water because there's no point in wasting a whole bunch of water because we are going to give this a final rinse when we're done here. So all I'm going to do is just go ahead with my Dollar Tree scrubber here and just give these a nice scrub, especially if you see any like grime or dirt. You don't have to use gold potatoes for this. You can use a russet, you can use red potatoes, you can use whatever kind of potatoes. And again, they don't have to be small, but we're gonna cut them up in small pieces. And I like each piece of potato to have a nice little skin on it because the skin kind of gets a little crispy. And I like that. All right, so this looks pretty much done. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna rinse this. Empty out this water, rinse this really well. I'll be right back. So I have my kitchen towel here and I'm just going to place my potatoes on there. Another thing another extremely important step for a really good roast potato is that these potatoes need to be dried. They need to be dried, and I'm all twisted up, tongue-tied today. Another thing about having smaller potatoes is that they take a really short time to dry. Dry them with my towel, and I'm just going to let them air dry for a little bit. Your oven has to be preheated as well. You want to get your oven preheated and going. I have mine at 450 degrees. We're just going to let these dry, and they're pretty much just has a little dampness to it at this point, but I'm going to let them sit here maybe 5-10 minutes and they will be perfectly ready to start slicing up. So we have our potatoes here. They are nice and dried, and all I'm doing is I'm just cutting these potatoes up into quarters or halves depending on how big your potato is. For the baby potatoes, I will probably cut those in half, and for the other ones that are still small, I'm still going to cut them up in quarters. You don't want too big potatoes because it just doesn't roast as well as the smaller pieces, but either or, halves and quarters or so, and just finish that up. So I have here a tray that I've lined with aluminum foil, and that's just for easy cleanup. Now, another really important tip for this is you want your potatoes to breathe. You definitely don't want it all bunched together or sitting on top of each other. You want them to have air around it so it can get nice and crispy. Don't want to overcrowd your pan. And now we're just going to go ahead and season this. Season with a little sprinkle of salt. You don't want to over season because it will just become bitter in the oven. I like to add a little bit of Cajun seasoning. It just adds a little bit more flavor, kind of like seasoned fries. and just a little sprinkle of salt, pepper, Cajun seasoning, and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. You don't want this to be swimming in olive oil. You just want everything to be nice and coated in the olive oil. So start off with 2 tablespoons. Of course, it's going to matter on how much potatoes you're making, but this amount is great with 2 tablespoons or so of olive oil. Just give it a nice mix around, make sure it's coated and all those seasonings are mixed well, and just again give it a lot of air, a lot of space around each other so that it could crisp up. So the important things are nice small potatoes, good, clean, and dry potatoes, and have them to be spread out. Also, you see that I'm not adding garlic to this. A lot of roasted potato recipes will have garlic in it. The reason I'm not adding garlic, and this happened just because one time I forgot to add garlic and realized how much better these potatoes were when I didn't add garlic. Because the time it takes for these potatoes to bake and the temperature we're baking it at, which is at 450, the garlic just becomes too bitter. As much as I love roasted garlic, it just is too bitter with this. Of course, you can add it if you want to, but I recommend just trying it without the roasted garlic. You can add a little bit of garlic salt if you want, but this just as is perfect. It's going to go into my oven now, and we want it to go into our oven for about 25 minutes at 450 for the first time around. 20 to 25 minutes. Then we're going to remove it from the oven. And we're going to go ahead and just give these a little flip. And as you can see with the one that just fell, they are a beautiful roasted color at the bottom. You don't want these to get burnt because anything burnt has a little bit of a bitter flavor to it. And that's why we don't add too much to this. But you're just going to carefully, I'm just trying to show you here, but it's so difficult to pick these up. But oh my gosh, it's just a perfect color. Think about like KFC wedges, but without all the fluff on it. Some of them may need a little bit of a nudging to turn. You don't want to, like, if it's really, really difficult, just give it a little bit more time. But some of them may need a little bit of nudging just to get it, turned and flipped over to the other side. So I'm going to do this as best as I can, flip them over as best as I can, trying not to forget any. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to do the best that I can, okay? And that's all we can do in life. At this point, that's what I've realized. It's just the best we can do. And then I'm going to place this back in the oven again at 450 for another 15 minutes. 15 minutes at the end. Again, we don't want to over roast these because they could get a little bit bitter. But yeah. And then take them out of the oven, and that's pretty much it. You serve it. You can obviously serve this by itself, but this is like the perfect side. And what's really great about this is you can serve this with dipping sauces, and because I'm not having the garlic in this, my garlic white sauce with this would be so phenomenal. Okay, phenomenal. I will see if I can leave that link down below. But yeah, that's it. So easy, so quick. It is definitely a little bit of a healthier option if you want something more of like kind of like fries to have on the side, but not totally fries that is deep fried. They're super delicious and it's so incredibly easy to make. I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.